Please listen carefully.
Well, hello, universe, and welcome to the Optimist Daily Update. I'm Kristy Jansen.
And I'm Summers McKay.
And we're part of the team behind the Optimist Daily, making solutions the news. We bring you reader-funded solutions news every day in order to change the tenor of news media, social media, and the direction of your day to help make it one focused on solutions.
7 days a week, we publish positive news stories written by award-winning journalists and delivered online to your inbox and through our social channels. And also, we are sharing these solutions in a commute-worthy, walk-worthy, home office-worthy, I have laryngitis-worthy podcast. Today is Tuesday, the 6th of April, 2021.
Yes. So, Summers, clearly, I think you're feeling better, but you sound worse.
Isn't that the rub, right? Like, isn't that how that works? I think.
Yeah. And, I'm glad that you're on the mend from last week, and that I think just moving to a whole new community, a whole new place, and all the exhaustion connected to that, it's enough to take anybody out for a couple days.
Yeah, and this is like the tricky thing, right? We've returned to childcare for Brennan. We've put her back in school. So inevitably she's going to get a cold. And then inevitably mom is going to get the cold. But then we compound it with the fact that we have been biologically isolated for more than a year. So nobody's immune system has any idea on how to handle these shenanigans. So we went from having like a stomach bug to then having this sinus situation that for her is all clear. She's back at school. She's great. She's fine. And for mom has like lodged itself permanently in my throat. And there's not enough hot tea.
Don't be so alarmist, Summers. Not so alarmist. Not permanently. It's just an extra day or two that
okay. You're right. Not permanently, but it
will
permanent.
get better. Yes. And I'm glad you're on the mend. And
yes.
Yeah, I'm a little iffy myself today. Just I'm trying to do a sort of a detoxing program, and the first few days of changing up everything, you don't feel so great. So I'm still in those first couple of days. I'm interested in a restart, reset for my body and my mind. And now that we're starting to move back into, what might be a new social interaction, maybe in middle of May or June or sometime in the seeable future. I just want to be mindful on what I want to bring back into the world for myself and who I want to be back in the world. I mean, we are all capable of changing our habits and changing our orientation. And that's exactly what the Optimist Daily is about helping us shift our perspectives, shift how we see things, not gloss over the problems, but rather acknowledge them and then focus on, okay, so what are we going to do? So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get a little bit active with myself.
Without getting into detail too much, Kristy, you are doing a cleanse. You and I used to both do these relatively frequently. I would do one once a year. I think you did too. And there's a lot of, debate on whether or not cleanses are necessary or good for your body or not. But you and I both have felt in our own personal physical histories that doing a cleanse is not only good physiologically, but also mentally, because like you just said, it's a reset, right? It's an intention, and it suddenly shifts you into 100% intention with everything you are putting in your body. So when you come out of that quote unquote cleanse period, you've shifted your mindset. How long are you on this cleanse for? How many days does this last for you?
Well, this particular one is a 5-day intensive.
Mm-hmm.
However, part of what I'm doing is being completely vegan, and I think I'm going to bring that forward. That's my goal is to move to a more plant-based diet consistently going forward. It aligns with so many things that I believe. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be religious about it, but I don't know, maybe I leave that open at this moment. But that's my intention. And it means that our household is going to have 2 different meal preps going on every single day.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I'll pull some of my household along with me. Who knows?
You might.
We'll see.
You absolutely might. My husband has spent many years in his life being vegan. And I would say really since the baby came and for the last 2.5 years, we've tried to eat plant-based as much as possible, but it just really hasn't happened. And he and I both have talked about being ready to kind of move back into a vegan lifestyle as well. Even if it's something like 5 days a week, right? Something where you are just more intentional, and then you get more intentional about the sourcing of your food. And anyway,
right. Whole food kind of plan too, not just substituting animal-based processed food for plant-based processed food.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because coming up later this month on the Optimist Daily, we are going to have a theme week around greening up your kitchen. And it's going to cover everything from healthier food choices, healthier ways like how do you even compost, to even cooking with induction cooking and stepping away from natural or propane gas, right? The burning style of cooking. So coming up later this month on the Optimist Daily, you will be able to get a lot of that great content. And if you guys have strategies or tips that you currently use, send them to editorial so we can get them into our Greening Up Your Kitchen week on the Optimist Daily. But today, there were so many headlines to choose from, and nobody wants to hear my voice like this. So we decided to do something different, and we're just going to read you all of the headlines, and I'm going to let Kristy do it.
Okay. And I mean, we can comment on it. I mean, speaking of composting, yes. And this is the lead story today. Both Summers and I love this, but the headline reads that coffee waste speeds up forest recovery on degraded land. And we all know the idea of putting coffee grounds in your backyard to boost your plants. And so that's what they've been doing. This is a study out of Zurich and the University of Hawaii. And they found that coffee pulp, which is a byproduct of the coffee production, can be used to accelerate tropical forest recovery on post-agricultural land. So that was an interesting one. It reminds me of when they used the waste from the oranges, exactly, the sun-kissed waste in Belize. The next article is about grief and collective grief. And this is something that I feel like is super important for us to acknowledge. The headline reads, "What we are feeling is collective grief, and here's how to deal with it." And so these are some tips that are sourced from David Kessler's book, who wrote on grief and grieving, finding the meaning of grief through the 5 stages of loss, with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. We've talked a little bit about this in the beginning of the pandemic, but now that we're getting towards the end, at least of this phase, who knows what the future will bring. I think many of us are moving back into that acknowledgement of what we've lost. And for some people, that's very, very personal and tragic. For others, it's more just like our old lives. But I think all of us are feeling this. And so this article is wonderful looking at that. The next headline, say lists make speech language therapy accessible and engaging. This is another great story about inclusionary trends on the internet and how music can help children or anybody struggling with actual pronunciation of the English language get different sounds. So that's a really fun story. If you're in speech therapy, or even if you have a kid who has a lisp or anything, check that out. Philadelphia is using a mediation program to prevent evictions, another really forward-looking program. Philadelphia is a forward-looking city. There's a lot of really interesting things happening there. But this is an eviction diversion program specifically focused on helping people stay in their homes and not get evicted through mediation assistance. Today's articles, April 6th, look them up. Try to read all 10 headlines. I'll just quickly go through the next. There's a tree fungus that can help boost tomato yields and improve flavor. Yes, it's deadly for trees, but this is actually an interesting study about how a fungus can help boost tomato production. Spain is set to pilot a 4-day work week program. That is going to be something we're definitely going to be following. I think there's a lot of benefits that could come out of that. The benefits of shifting healthcare from hospital to home. And that's something that maybe we're relearning from the past, that hospitals are maybe not always the best place to go for care. And with telehealth, a lot of people, there's some advances there. Yep. There's a dog barking. I don't know if you hear it. There's 3 COVID-19 medical advancements that will endure post-pandemic. I'm sure there's more, but this article highlights 3 of those. And some tips for couples looking to combine their finances. There's an article on that. And finally, Australians can now trade their extra solar power for cold beer. and that's definitely a make me smile type of story. Those are our 10 headlines for today. Go check them out on today's solutions for April 6th on theoptimistdaily.com. And thanks so much for listening, everybody, to the Optimist Daily Update. We promise to keep sharing positive solution-based stories, the ideas on how you can participate in the changing world and help change it in a positive direction. Summers, were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask everybody to please become an emissary on the Optimist Daily. And for just $5 a month, support reader-funded independent journalism. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Cheers to all the Australians and their cold beer and solar panels. I'm in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Did you want to say something, Summers?
I was trying. I was just, never mind. I'm here and I agree.